Good afternoon, everybody. You're very welcome to our Words on Whiskey special. And for us, this is a first, and we're really looking forward to having a behind-the-scenes look of a live distillery and speaking with the team there. So, look, we're delighted to be joined by Lisa Doyle and Christopher Goggins. So, Lisa, good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the Dublin Liberties Distillery. So nice
Yeah.
to have people in, even if it is virtually.
Yes, indeed. That's the way of the world at the moment. But hopefully we're seeing better days. How have you been keeping?
Yeah, not too bad. Busy, So we've still been in full production, which Christopher will take you through. But yeah, our e-commerce is flying and lots of new things happening, which I'll chat to you about at the end once Christopher takes you through production. But busy.
Busy. That's good. Well, look, happy birthday. 2 years in production. So.
Oh yeah, 2 years. Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe. I don't know where the 2 years has gone, but yeah, 2 years.
It's flown by. So I think February 2019 was it the official opening?
February 27, 2019 was the official opening. Yeah.
Very good.
What a night that was. I introduced you to Christopher here. I know you know Christopher very well, and he's part of our distilling team. So Christopher knows all the information about the production side of it, which I wouldn't be very good at. So
excellent. Hello, everybody, as well. If you have any questions, of course, during this, please do put them to Christopher or to Lisa later on. Christopher, good afternoon.
How are you, sir? Just good to see you.
Not too bad. Well, not disturbing your work there today, I hope.
So I could always have time for you, sir. Just never a problem.
Very good. Well, look, I mean, this is obviously you're relatively new to the role, and you're perhaps not familiar to people in other circles where you were a tour guide with Jameson, and now you're not just talking about it, you're actually doing it. How are you settling in?
It's been an experience. Honestly, going from the talking about it aspect of it to the actual hands-on doing,
Yeah.
Sort of came in thinking I would have a decent grasp of things because, obviously a lot of my background would be discussing the ins and outs of production. I did my certificate in distillation through the Institute of Brewers and Distillers a few years back. So in my head, I thought, it's just a case of now putting theory into practice. But
yeah,
there's so much more to it than that, and it was a very intense first few months trying to wrap my head around the multitasking of it all, the interconnection of it all. That knowing that if something goes wrong now, 6 hours from now, that's going to have a knock-on effect into what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So I think it was just learning the minutiae of it all and learning how to keep all the different plates spinning at the same time. Was definitely a very steep learning curve, but the team here have been absolutely incredible in getting me up to speed, and it's been.
It's your dream job. I saw you describe on you described it as you've settled into your And has it been everything that it's what that you expected?
And more. It's it's tiring. It's very manual at times, but honestly, it is living my dream role. It's what I dreamt of doing, but honestly, for a long time now, thought that because my academic background through university and whatnot wasn't through science, I never thought it would be a reality. But it's been outstanding to have a company who was willing to take me by the hand and bring me through it.
Brilliant. And I'm delighted for you because I know you're so passionate about it, and you've been talking about it for a long time, I know. So to actually secure the role, I'm sure you're thrilled to bits, and we're thrilled for you. So
thank you.
So production hasn't stopped. Production has been going full swing ever since COVID lockdown. So obviously the tours have ceased for the moment, and everything else, though, is fully operational, and you're flat out producing single malt whiskey.
Yeah, we've been we're on 6-day production at the moment, so it's it really is flat out. We're churning out as much of that new make spirit as we can, and it's just been a case of keeping that end of things as active as possible through all of this.
Yeah.
So
The whole process there is done in house, except I think bottling and malting. So you do your own milling, from milling through to filling the casks is all done there.
Well, we would bring it as far as casking strength, and that would then be tankered from here down to our warehouses down at Stafford's in Wexford. So yeah, we take it from malt. We look after milling and everything through up to the point where we have our new make, which is then obviously reduced down to the correct strength and then tankered away. But we handle everything in between. What
challenges have there been during the COVID to keep production going? Obviously, you're a small enough team, so keeping distance isn't that big a deal. But obviously, there are some restrictions and some difficulties.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose for me it's strange because I've never known it any other way. Yeah. I began the role last April, which was obviously after the lockdown and everything had happened. So to be honest, it's the way that we've been working is the only way I've ever known it. Yeah. Which is a very peculiar thing to say,
Yeah.
Everyone's very focused on how much this has changed their working life, whereas for me, this is what I've come into from the get-go.
You'll be in for a shock then, maybe when it all opens up again. That'll be.
I think so.
Yeah.
Probably when I'm walking around the place singing at the top of my lungs, and then realize there's a tour group coming through, and Yeah. So it'll be strange. Yeah.
Tell us, you're in a rather special room there, something that's quite distinctive for the distillery in Dublin. So that's the water room you're in there now. Can you tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. So we're really fortunate in where we're located, in that the distillery itself on Mill Street, just off the St. Patrick's Cathedral area, for anyone who's maybe not familiar with where the Liberties is. We actually have our own water supply underground here, so we have a borehole going down 30 meters. We're sourcing our own water up through there. So in terms of making a whiskey that's true to the area and true to the Liberties, I think that's a really, really important factor to us. To have water that's literally coming from under our feet, I think is a huge part of what gives our whiskey that character, and what gives us that I don't want to go all marketing here, but that unique selling point almost,
Yeah. Is there any particular characteristics of the water from that water source? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it particularly rich in chemicals or
no, quite naturally soft. So yeah, it's got that. I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase it, but yeah, it does have that softness we're looking for, and it brings that very mellow character into the final spirit as well.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so what happens in that water room there then that you're in at the moment?
Well, I believe this is where the guided tours would normally start. Right. Sadly, it's something I've yet to experience myself, but we figured if we were going to bring everyone on a tour of the distillery, we would start where the tour would normally begin. Yeah. So normally what we do here is we'd introduce everyone to the ingredients, to a little bit of history of building itself, the area of the Liberties, and obviously the rich distilling and brewing history that there is in this part of the city, before bringing everyone out onto the main production floor. So this would very much be our introductory piece.
Yeah. So you're very much in the heart of the Liberties there, and obviously the Liberties was a boiling mesh for distilleries in the past. I think at one point there were 37, maybe almost 40 distilleries.
Yeah, I believe in or around the 40 mark. Yeah, when you include some of the smaller ones and some of the breweries in the area as well. I mean, obviously some were more prominent than others, but it was an absolute hotbed back in those days.
Yeah. And is that building that you're in now, obviously there are new parts to it, and there is the refurbished old part. Does that have any historical significance, that building that you're in now? It's a magnificent restoration, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm such a fan. Even walking down, even when we're starting in the morning time now, and you see the building lit up when you're coming down, because it's still quite dark when our shifts begin, but they've done a spectacular job in the refurbishment here and everything. It's really cool to even just to have that as your entrance when you're coming in for your shift,
Yeah, it really is. It really is a kind of a TARDIS, in the sense that you don't expect it to be so big when you look at it from the outside.
No, but not at all.
But it's a fascinating building, actually, and really well restored. So,
so originally the building itself was a mill.
Right.
With supplied a lot of breweries, bakeries, and that kind of thing in the immediate area. Over time, then it became a tannery. So the building would have looked after treating animal hides to become leather and that kind of thing. Primarily rabbits, actually.
Really?
Primarily rabbit skins, which were made into like ladies' gloves and that kind of thing. So yeah, in its heyday, it was a tannery. I believe then it was vacant and obsolete for quite some time before it had the very glamorous job of being a sofa factory.
All right. Okay.
I mean that was really the glory days for this building. You know?
Yeah. But I mean the whole area has been so rejuvenated over the last 5-10 years, and a lot of it's down to distilleries moving into the area and creating employment for people as well. And of course, this large student accommodation complex there right next to you as well.
Yeah,
and
just
hotels.
So it's, I mean, I've lived in Dublin 20 years, and even just seeing the difference on it in that short space of time is huge to see. It's fantastic for the area.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, do you want to take us then through some of the production? So let's, we'll follow you. So hopefully we won't lose it.
Okay, no worries. So I'm just bringing you out onto the production floor now. We'll head up towards the milling and mashing area, I think is probably our best place to begin.
Okay, great.
So hopefully no one's getting motion sickness or anything right now, but I am going to bring you to here. Okay. So where we are at the moment is on our brewing floor. And as we mentioned when we were in the previous room, we handle every step in our process really, from malt intake all the way through to the final spirits. So in terms of our malt intake, we usually get one delivery every week, normally about 28 tons of malt. From Minch, who'd be our main suppliers. And we've been toying with a few different varieties in the time that I've been here. Mainly Planet and Laureate have been the two malt styles we've been primarily using. So it's it's something that we can toy around with depending on availability and what we're looking to produce. So as I said, we'd normally take in a batch of about 28 tons, which would fill our silo. And then we have our mill and everything just over here behind me. So there we go. Yeah. Cool.
Just James Bond moment.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So behind me here, I hope you can see. I hope I've got the angles right, but you can see our malt silo in at the back here. This kind of corrugated.
Yeah. Just on the.
Yep. And then that would feed into our mill, which is the. Oh, I hope that's visible for you. Yep.
So the mill is basically where the barley is. Is it a hammer mill or a roller mill?
It's a roller mill, yes. So we're able to, depending again on the malt strain that we're using, the crop that we're using, we're able to adjust those settings to get it to exactly where we need it to be, which obviously just is a massive help in terms of our consistency in the product that we're looking to produce. So normally we would mill. It's usually 2 tons at a time, would be give or take what we'd be looking to send through. And that will grind everything down into a grist, into a fine flour, then that we'll feed into our mash tun.
And is it a wet mill or a dry mill?
No, dry mill.
Dry mill, yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, you can just see here, this is where our grist would feed in then to our mash tun. So this is where it's going to be conveyed through. And mixed with hot water or hot liquor, as it's known, in or around the 75-degree mark, give or take, and then down into our lauter tun, which is what you can see here just behind me. Now, again, depending, I suppose, on who's listening, I'm sure many of your listeners here will be more than familiar with what happens at a step like this, but this really is where we're looking for that sugar extraction. And how long does it spend in there? It varies really from mash to mash. We can find that even though we're following everything exactly the same way, there can be some subtle variances from one brew to the next in terms of how long it can take. Normally, it's going to be in here for between 4 and 5 hours would be a pretty usual time span. And we would draw from a 2-ton batch of grist that would be moved in here. We'll draw off a brew of 10,000 liters of wort.
Right. Okay. So that's basically sugared water is the wort, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously with malting, you're looking to open up the sugars in the grain. With milling, you're trying to crush it down to make that sugar more accessible. And then with mashing, you're basically trying to leach those sugars from the malt into your hot water and create a very rich sugary liquid then that you'll be able to send up to the next stage.
And is that what kind of filtering takes place then with the grain? What happens to the spent grains?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the floor of this machine is a very, very fine sieve plate.
Yeah.
So you have your bed of grist, which will be taking up quite a large proportion of the depth that you can maybe see here. And the liquid will then drain through that grist, through that bed, and down through the slots in the floor before moving on to the next stage. And then by the time we're finished here, we can switch on the rakes to begin stirring that grist around, which will then filter out through the bottom of the mash tun and out to the back of our distillery, then into our spent grain bins, which are picked up usually every day, and then sold off as cattle feed.
Okay, so that goes to cattle feed. Okay, happy cattle. Very good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, show us the next stage then, Christopher, please.
Okay. So once we've got our brew from here, our 10,000 litres of wort, it's going to be sent to one of these vessels behind me here. I hope you can see that. I'm trying to get my camera work right. But we have 5 20,000 litre fermenters here, or washbacks as they're known. So each washback will hold 2 full brews. Right. And this is then where we're going to allow it to sit for a minimum of 72 hours. So a minimum of 3 days of fermentation.
Right. And does that vary with climatic conditions or the type of grain that you've used?
Typically, no. I mean, we're going to keep very close eyes on it as it goes. We do regular checks to ensure the alcohol content is getting where we need it to be, and what's known as the gravity of the liquid, which is I guess in simple terms, the decreasing amount of sugar to the increasing amount of alcohol within the liquid. So we'll monitor that very, very closely. And if it needs a little extra, we can, we have the flexibility to do that. But typically 72 hours would be about the norm for what we're doing here.
Okay.
And yeah, once it's had its 3 days in here, we normally have a liquid wash, as it's known, which is essentially an unhopped beer. And that's going to be typically in or around the 8% alcohol mark for us. Okay. Which is then what we send through to the stills.
So you have total capacity there in fermentation of how much? I mean, does it...
5 20,000 litre fermenters. So yeah, we have 100,000 litres maturing, or fermenting at any given moment. Yeah.
Okay. And before it goes off to distillation, it obviously it finishes fermenting. Does it go straight into the stills then, or does it wait a period of time in a holding vessel?
No, it'll be charged directly from the washbacks. It'll go through a heat exchanger so that we can preheat the liquid before it goes into the wash still, and then we'll begin distillation from that point. Okay.
And what's the purpose of that preheating?
Essentially, it's a time-saving device more than anything else. Okay. So what will happen is when you finish your first distillation, you're only taking about 1/3 of that liquid on through the process. You still have 2/3 of that liquid left in the still. Right. So what we do is when we discharge the still, we'll hold that boiling hot liquid in a separate tank. And then when we're charging the next wash still, we'll run that liquid through a heat exchanger opposite the cold wash that's going in.
Right.
And it will pass some of its heat to the wash before it makes its way through. So we're using the heat from our previous distillation to heat the liquid going in for the next distillation. And it means that instead of the liquid going in cold and waiting for 10,000 litres to heat up, which could take hours, it's going in preheated. So it's already closer to the temperature at which you want it to be. And it means then that you reach that boiling point and you get that alcohol extraction much more quickly.
And you're making use of the heat that you already had. So it's reducing your costs and also more efficient. What type of yeast are you using? Is it Distillers Yeast?
It is Distillers Yeast. Yeah, it's a powdered variety that we use.
Very good.
And it's a standard Distillers Yeast that's going through, Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay, so from there, do you want to take us through maybe what happens next?
Yeah, absolutely. So after it's had its time fermenting here in our beautiful washbacks, it's going to make its way through to the still house, which is just through here. Excellent. And it's normally very noisy in here, but thankfully things are just that little bit quieter.
Are they operating, or it's just quiet in there at the moment?
At the moment, I'm afraid you've caught me at a moment where the only thing that's happening is a cleaning program on the wash still.
Okay. Yeah.
My faints and spirits still finished up this morning at about midday.
Yeah.
And my wash still finished at about 2:30 just before I came on with you. So I had to allow it to cool for a few minutes, and then I started the cleaning program on it. So that's actually the only thing that's happening in here at the moment.
Yeah. For those that aren't familiar, obviously you're doing triple distillation. Have you got the capability to do double distillation if you want?
That would be a decision that would probably go a little above my pay grade, to be honest. But the flexibility is there. I mean, if you have 3 stills, the capability is always there to play around with what you want to do. So we would have the flexibility to do it. Whether or not that's something that's in the pipeline would be a question for the higher ups.
Yeah, very good. So could you tell us a little bit about the stills themselves? They're from where?
So they're from a German company called Carl.
Yeah.
Who supplied the stills. We have a 10,000 litre wash still, and then a 6,000 litre faints and spirit still. Okay. So as I mentioned to you outside, each time you distill, you'll be taking less and less liquid on to the next step. So you would normally see that in distilleries where the stills would be a little smaller for each step, you know.
Are there any characteristics of these stills that lead to the flavor profile that you have for the single malt?
Well, the beautiful thing with the 3 of them is that lantern glass shape that you can see on each. This sort of bulge, and I think some people refer to it almost as a witch's hat. But what this will encourage is more copper contact. As you're boiling and you're taking your alcohol vapors up through the neck, the more contact that it can come into with copper, the more purification and the lighter your spirit is going to be. Right. You can find very, very trace amounts of sulfur and various other compounds that would just give a really negative flavor to a spirit. So the more copper contact that you can encourage, the more of those nasties, as I call them, you're able to extract from the spirit before it moves on. Yeah. So with this shape that you can see on the necks,
I see it fine. Yeah.
Angle here. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Are we okay?
Yeah, I think, I can hear you fine. Anyway, if anybody can't, please let us know.
So what you're finding is that obviously most of your heat is happening in the bottom of the still, and as it progresses, it can get a little cooler as it goes ahead. So some of that vapor, as it makes its way up through the neck, will actually cool and come back down into the still. So it's what's known as reflux. Yep. And the more of that reflux that you can encourage, the more of that copper contact you're getting. And so again, the lighter the spirit is going to be by the time all is said and done. So you can see there's a similar shape on each of the 3. So we're encouraging that reflux and we're encouraging that light style of character as much as we can. You end up with this spirit that's this really beautiful, fruity, crisp, almost green apple characteristic coming through in the final product. I always get a lot of like green apples and black currants coming through in our unique spirit, which again, everyone's palate can be that little bit different, but those are always the 2 things that really jump out at me.
How are they heated? Are they jacket heated? Are they coil? Are they?
So a little different. The first still is done by heat exchanger as well. The liquid will actually come out from the bottom of the still through a heat exchanger and then circulate back in. Okay. So that'll be steam fired then, I guess you could say. Whereas the other 2 are jacketed, so they're more like a bain-marie almost.
Yeah. So the liquid goes in at 8% ABV roughly.
And so typically, you have your wash feeding in at 8% alcohol, give or take. It's a natural product, so there can be some fluctuations there. Sure. After the first distillation, you'd normally use what's called the rule of 3. You get something that's about a third of the quantity, but about 3 times the strength. So we'd normally be coming off between 24 and 28% after our first distillation. And that would then move into the second still, the faint still. Typically, once we finish the second distillation, we're up around normally 69 to 70%.
Right, okay.
And then finally in our spirit still, and this is where things can get a little complicated, we actually need to run two sets of the first 2 stills to have enough quantity to charge our third still.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. So after the 10,000 liters that went in initially, how much is left after the first two?
Well, again, after the first distillation, you'd put 10,000 liters in, and you'll normally get 3,000 to 3,500 liters out.
Right. Okay.
Second distillation, obviously, is where we would start making our cuts. This is where we'd start selecting the spirit that we want to move forward versus the alcohol that we would actually recirculate back into the first still.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, back into the second still. So it'll actually be redistilled along with the next batch.
Okay.
Again, normally we'd be taking 12 to 1,300 liters that would then move on to the third still.
Right.
But
Okay.
it would be two of those faint distillations that would feed one charge of the spirit still.
Yeah. And how long does it actually take to go through each vessel?
Well, our wash distillation is usually around the 9.5 to 10 hour mark.
Oh, is it that long? Yeah.
It is. The faint distillation, usually this is the quickest of the three, actually. This is normally around the 8 hour mark.
Yeah.
And then our spirit distillation can take, because with the spirit distillation, you need to be very, very precise and very careful with how you're doing it. So we like to take our time with that. The spirit distillation can normally run 12 hours, sometimes a little longer.
Yeah. And how are the cuts done? So if you want to maybe just give some of our listeners a little bit of an explanation of what cuts are and
okay. Well, you want to think of like the spirit that's coming off the still has a full spectrum of flavor. So I always like to describe it as going from the very, very light to the very, very heavy, or how I would normally describe it, it's going from white to black as it goes along.
Yeah.
You need to select which shade of gray you want to be your flavor profile. You need to decide which of the light elements you want to leave behind, which of the heavy elements you want to leave behind, and where your flavor profile is going to be in between. So making those cuts is like choosing your shade of gray in between the two extremes, you know?
So that's what distinguishes different distilleries largely, is the cuts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on our first still, there are no cuts made. We'll try to just simply extract as much alcohol as we possibly can from that wash.
Yeah.
Second distillation, we will normally, the first 30 liters that come through are known as the heads. They're very estery, very almost a sour apple flavor to it at that point. Just a very heavy concentration of flavor, which would be too much. It's not what we're looking for. So 30 liters of that will be cut away. Mm-hmm. We'll then continue to distill until what's coming through the safe is reading at 62% alcohol. So we'll start the distillation. We take away that first 30 liters of spirit that comes off, and we then continue that distillation until what we're reading in the safe is at 62% alcohol. That liquid we've collected is what will move into the third still. And everything else that will come off will be held in a tank underneath, and that will actually go back into that faint still for the next distillation that we're doing there. So
So that's the tails then that are recycled?
Exactly. Yeah. And there will still be some usable alcohol in there. There will still be some of the flavor components that we're looking for. It's just that we would need to have them in a slightly different concentration. So by recharging them into that still for the next run, we're able to successfully extract more of that usable alcohol, shall we say.
Yeah. Okay. So it is very much a batch process, Christopher.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the spirit still then.
Okay, the spirit still, we could get very technical here. There are different schools of thought as to how to make the cuts on the spirit still. Some will do it purely by taste. Some will do it purely by time. Some will do it by alcoholic strength, you know. Each distillery will have its own approach as to when that cut needs to be made. But what we try to do is I guess a little bit of both. Ultimately, when we make the cut, can be done primarily by nose. You can taste it, but with the strength of alcohol that's coming off at the time, needs to be very, very watered down to make it potable. You know, it can be coming off that third still at 86 to 87% alcohol. So
and you can get some very nasty elements as well if you cut it wrong.
You can do, absolutely. So making that cut is absolutely crucial. We tend to do it by the quantities that we have brought forward. So we
Sure.
try to read it using the exact quantities that we've taken from the second still. Will both be charged into the spirit still, but you'll also have the tails of the previous spirit distillation will
Fed
be
back.
charged in here as well.
Yeah.
So what we'll try to do is we'll take the exact quantity that's coming off the faint stills, our 2 batches, and we'll use that as our guideline. Once we've hit roughly that quantity, we know that that's the point where the cut would be imminent. And so that's then where the distillers have that little bit more hands-on approach. We know ballpark where the cut will be coming, but ultimately we will make the call through more of a sensory perception of it.
Yeah, so that's the art of the distiller, really. That's where you earn your bread and butter on that. Is it very manual, or is it automated at all, or is it a combination of both?
A combination of both. Primarily, it is a very automated distillery, which is always beneficial because with so many different elements all happening at the same time, and that's the important thing to understand is that we don't on one day mill and then mash and then ferment, and then these are all happening simultaneously. So as a distiller, you're keeping an eye on your batch that's milling. You've got your mash tun, you've got your fermenters, you've got each of the 3 stills. So having that element of automation allows for that multitasking. I think it allows for the hands-on element of the job to be that little bit easier because you can trust that the system is looking after everything while you're focusing on the one thing that you need to focus on at that moment.
Yeah. So I mean, if one element does go wrong, it can be it can hold up something further down the line, obviously, and
absolutely
halt production altogether.
Yeah, it can. I think when I was first starting, our distillery manager here, John Park, he told me that most of the real work you'll do is when things aren't working.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the experience and the knowledge of how each step interacts with the next allows you to see where those potential speed bumps could be down the road. So if you haven't something even as simple as if your malt delivery is a little late. It means you could be late running your mill, so you may not start your brew at the right time, and that can have knock-on effects even a week down the line,
Yeah. It's Chris Hennessy there from Kilkenny, just saying great to have a look behind the scenes. Hi, Christopher. From one Chris to another. I didn't. There. Well, look, how many distillers are there? Obviously, Daryl McNally is your head distiller.
He certainly is,
and he's many years' experience with Bushmills. But how many other distillers are working in the?
Well, so Daryl is our head distiller. We then have our distillery manager, John Park.
Yeah.
And then currently there's a team of 5 of us then who would be on shift and operating the distillery at a given moment. So we have a team of 5. We rotate between ourselves between day and night shift. So on.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Okay. So you're saying it comes off the final still at about 80?
86, 87. Yeah, so that would be our usual ballpark. What will happen then is that once it comes off that third still, it will move into a holding tank down on the floor below where I'm standing right now. We take samples and everything from that to ensure that we've got everything recorded for the paper trail. It moves then into what's called our ISR, our intermediate spirit receiver. We'll add in our purified water to get it down to the exact strength that we need. So we have our own very small little reverse osmosis plant here on site. We can purify the water that we need and add that into the spirit, drop it down to 63.4%.
So that's what it goes into the cask at. That's your. Is that higher than normal slightly?
Actually, I believe that's almost become an industry standard in terms of being able to move and to tanker that spirit from one place to the next. I believe for a lot of distilleries that has been set as the
guideline
for moving it. Yeah. So we'll reduce it down slowly but surely. You got to be very careful because you never would want to drop it below that cutoff. So normally, if we're on a 12-hour shift, we can be doing that reduction in slow stages for the entire shift. And then normally once every 2 weeks, give or take, we'll have enough spirit in that spirit receiver to then be taken away by tanker down to our warehouses. We're working with Stafford's bonded warehouses down in Wexford.
Yeah.
And from there, it'll be casked up and set away.
Yeah. Tell me, off the final still, then, how much of the 10,000 litres that started the process actually come out?
Well, you have to remember we're doubling up.
You're doubling up.
Up to 20,000 litres, shall we say, from 2 wash still runs.
Yeah.
We'll normally take off. It's normally in or around 1,800 litres of pure alcohol at that point. Yeah.
Right, down to 10% of what it was initially.
Absolutely.
Could you just explain one thing for me, anyway? The percentage alcohol that goes into the cask, it goes in at that percentage. If it was to, I mean, there's no. What's the reason it doesn't go in at the 86% as opposed to the 60?
So again, the way I would normally describe what's happening in the barrel is it's almost like when you're dipping a tea bag. You know, you're trying to extract that flavor. You're trying to enhance and infuse the spirit that you've put into it.
Yeah.
So there are flavor elements in the wood of the barrel that are going to help to infuse the spirit that you're putting into it.
Yeah.
Some of those elements are going to be more easily extractable by alcohol.
Yeah.
Some of those elements will be more easily extracted by water. So if you change the casking strength, if you change what you're filling to a higher alcohol strength, you'll be extracting more of the alcohol-soluble compounds. If you go in at a lower strength, you'll be extracting more of the water-soluble compounds. So it's really a case of finding an exact strength that allows you to get the balance of flavor profiles that you're looking for from the cask. So by choosing
Of course, this needs to be reproducible as well. So by bringing it down to a fixed amount, you know always what went into the and what you can expect to happen.
Precisely.
What casks are you using?
Primarily ex-bourbon would be for our main aging and maturation. We do some maturation, like full maturation in sherry casks at the moment as well.
All right. Okay.
And then we do various different barrel finishes at the moment too. So I think Lisa will be talking you through some of the different whiskies as well. But we've been doing some finishes in Hungarian Tokai casks.
Yeah.
We've been using some Pedro Jimenez sherry casks, some PX casks. And we also did a little work with O'Hara's brewery as well. We did some beer barrel versions of our Dubliner whiskey as well. So we've been toying around with a few various things at the moment, but for the most part, the main aging will be in ex-bourbon casks, and then we'll do some finishing from there.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Would you want to take us on to the next stage, or is there any stage?
Our next stage, really, I think, is where I'm going to be handing over to Lisa, and she's going to be walking you through some other parts of the, I think, the bar area here as well. So, I'm going to escort you through and hand you off to her.
Anybody have any questions there for Christopher? No. It's all quiet there at the moment. So.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, I think you've explained it so well. You really. But I'm delighted for you, Christopher. It's great to see that you landed your dream job, and I hope to see you in person soon. Yeah,
fingers crossed. We'll hopefully be able to toast it over a glass of whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. Let's move on then.
I'm going to hand you off to Lisa. She's right here next to me. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi guys.
Hi Lisa. Well, you're taking over the reins now. No, he explained that brilliantly. So that's very nice. Now we've probably lost Lisa here while she moves into the bar area. So we'll wait for her to come back. She will come back. Hello, Christine and Connor. Yeah, I think that was a nice overview, actually, in practical terms, because Christopher obviously knows all the theory, and now he's getting the hands-on experience, which is great. So I think Lisa's going to share with us something.
Sorry, I got you.
We lost you. Yeah, you went through a black hole there for a little bit, and look, I think thank you very much. Christopher really explained that very, very well. It's a nice, and he did it precisely and quickly, which is great.
He definitely knows what he's doing. That's why I don't do those kind of tours, because the technical side of it, like he's absolutely brilliant, and so as our entire team, we're very lucky.
So you're in an area where we would be more familiar to see you, if you like. You're in the bar area.
In the bar.
Yeah. So look, it's a magnificent bar, it really is, and it's such a shame to see it empty now. For you know, but yeah, I mean that's just beautiful. Yeah, and you've had a few events up there.
Yeah, we've had a few. Yeah, we obviously the launch here, and then we launched the Dead Rabbit book for the guys in New York, and yeah, there was a lot of really great events. But obviously, hopefully, we'll be able to do that again soon. You know, towards the end of the year, because it's such a great space.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we'll be able to utilize it again soon.
A question in there from Paul McDermott. Do you still produce the great the Dead Rabbit whiskey?
We do indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
We have so we have the Dubliner range, we have the Liberties Irish whiskey range, and we have the Dead Rabbit range, or the Dead Rabbit Irish whiskey, which is doing great things globally and in the States. So yeah, we still have that brand, absolutely.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
So at the moment you're producing single malt whiskey, and that's the direction that you've decided to go in, and that's going to be your signature. Is there any talk about doing something different in the future as well?
Oh God, yeah. Well, there's lots of talk of different things and different expressions and stuff like that, hopefully for the future. Obviously, given the last year that's in it, everything's slowed down, and releasing anything has been a bit has taken its time. But we've lots of exciting things happening towards the end of the year. Kiva Howard just recently rejoined our global brand team, which is great news. So our team will be a bit bigger, so we'll be able to hopefully do a lot more expressions. But the reasoning behind the single malt production was that our Liberties range is all single malt, essentially. And then the Dubliner range, I know you've seen the new fantastic.
Yes, I have it back here. The new branding on the. If people haven't seen it, the new branding is very modern, very contemporary, and a real refresh.
That's been a long time coming, so we're delighted to finally have that and total refresh. So that's good. The Dubliner range will keep, really fresh and cool. And we have a couple of beer cask editions coming out this year with the Dubliner range.
Yeah.
So we're very much doing kind of different ranges with the Dubliner, with those kind of expressions, but keeping it single malt and premium with our Liberties range.
Yeah. So I mean, you did. I think you had 3 beer collaborations last year, was it?
We did. It was actually the year before last. I know everyone would keep saying last year.
I know. Yeah.
It was the year before we launched the 3 beer casks. One with O'Hara's, with a stout finish, one with Rascals with a coffee stout finish, and then one with 5 Lamps. The 5 Lamps is sold out, and we have a bit of stock left, but not much of the coffee stout and the O'Hara's. But you can find them on our website anyway. So if you want to hands on a bottle. Yeah.
So you were one of the first to actually open up an e-commerce store after the shutdown. Lockdown was put in place. So how's that been going for you?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. We've got such a great reaction, and we're so thankful to everyone for their support. We basically just, the doors are shut, and as a business, you have to say, right, what are we going to do here? So, we started up the e-commerce last April straight away. We were delivering to everyone's doorstep in April, in Dublin City, and then we went nationwide in May, and it's just gone really, really well for us, thankfully. So we can still keep our brands out there and still still offer all of the different editions that we have on our website and stuff as well. Like the Tannery edition was purely just for the distillery and for doing tours of the distillery. It was just a distillery edition, so you can buy that on our website, whereas it's not available anywhere else in retail.
Right. Okay. And do you ship abroad as well?
The Tannery range, we don't know. We only made a small amount of that. I think there was a limited edition made of it, or limited amount made just for the distillery. Yeah. But the other ranges, we ship abroad, we ship globally. So thankfully, our whiskey sales globally, as you know, are doing quite well. So
yeah. So I believe you've new batches of the Murder's Lane and Keeper's Coin coming out as well.
That's big exclusive for you there. Batch 2 of Murder Lane and Keeper's Coin has just been produced, which we are very excited about. The liquid is absolutely amazing. So, but sure, Daryl says that about all of our liquids, but he said that this one is particularly good. So, we only have a very limited allocation for the Irish market for both SKUs. So they will be available on our e-commerce site, and then through Celtic Whisky and James Fox's and any good kind of independent off license, I suppose, because we do only have a small amount.
Yeah, and when are they expected to come out, the new batches?
Well, they're produced now, so
okay.
You'll be able to get your hands on a bottle hopefully in the coming weeks. We've got a little bit of stock left of batch 1, and we need to just sell that through, and then batch 2 will be ready to sell hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the price, there's a price change as well. You brought the price down, which
we have, because our costs were slightly reduced, so we were able to relook at the selling price against the competitive set to reduce the pricing, so hopefully it'll make it a lot more accessible for people to be able to purchase.
Yeah, when you say they're limited, how limited are they, Lisa? Are you talking tens of thousands or hundreds? Or
no, the Murder Lane for Ireland, I think we have about 1,700 bottles of batch 2, and for Keeper's Coin we only have about 200 bottles for Ireland for batch 2. So because we launched the Liberties range in the States in the last couple of months, and it's gone really, really well for us. So obviously the States took a lot of the allocation, and it's gone really well over there. So we're delighted. So we have a bit of stock for the Irish market. So you have to get your hands on it quick.
Yeah. So that's going to go. Yeah, that'll disappear quickly. What pricing are they?
So the Keeper's Coin will be about, our recommended selling price is €210. And there's the stunning new packaging with it as well. So it's the new premium packaging with it as well. And that'll be 210. And then the Murder Lane, we're going to reduce recommended selling price to €120. And that has the new packaging as well. So Yep.
And there you have from the 1875, the Fireman's Club.
Oh,
they're the first to do.
Love those guys.
Yeah. Have you been doing many Zoom tastings, Lisa, since lockdown?
We haven't. No, we've done a few private ones. Not too much. Obviously, we're given that we're a particularly small team, and we don't have a lot of resources to be able to do that. But we're hoping to be able to ramp that up now that we have new expressions to be able to do that with as well. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more, and maybe some more virtual tastings and stuff. As I say, that we have batch 2 now, that we can start doing that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you really haven't slowed down. If anything, you picked up in terms of production during the lockdown. You not gone the other way.
We haven't really made a lot of noise about it, I suppose, but we have been working very hard behind the scenes the last year. It's hard when your visitor centre side of things obviously shut down, but we've never stopped production. Our brand teams work very hard, trying to do their best in the background, but hopefully we'll be able to show you all that work we've been doing the last few months over the next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, the rebranding is definitely. What was the logic behind doing a rebrand?
I think, well, the Dubliner liqueur is around since 2011, and then Quintessential Brands purchased it, I think, in 2014, and they rebranded it at that point. But it was it's still kind of very traditional, and the look and feel was quite traditional, which does work well, obviously, in the States. But I suppose the brand team put their heads together and just wanted to do a refresh and make it more appealing to maybe our younger target consumers.
Yeah.
And I know Darren from our brand team is working very hard in the local market to try and get that out there with our younger target audience, and do different things now and go down a different path with it, hopefully.
Yeah. What export markets are you in at the moment?
Oh, we're in a lot. So Quintessential Brands, we have QB US, and then we have like EMEA, Australia, Asia. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many markets, but Quintessential Brands as a group are quite global. So our Irish whiskey, like obviously with the gin portfolio, they were already out there with the gin portfolio. So our whiskies are very much, but we were in Germany, Italy, Spain, France, everywhere. So I'll try and get that figure to you. But yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well globally, thankfully.
So the Quintessential brand obviously has a good distribution network, which really helps, I'm sure, with you.
Yeah, we have a big commercial team globally, and we have another big brand team as well in the UK, and so it's a big company, you know.
Yeah. Paul McDermott there is asking, one, do you need an accountant to work there? And secondly, when will the tours be back on?
Well, we have luckily have a couple of accountants already. They didn't lose their jobs, thankfully. Very good people. And tours wise, unfortunately, I can't answer that right now. I really can't. Like, I don't know how many times I've been asked that in the past year, and you give an answer and then it doesn't happen. So I would hate to surmise and then let people down. But we'd be hopeful that once things get back to normal and the whole country is vaccinated and we're able to open, like, I suppose it's when are the pubs going to open question, because when the pubs open, I'm sure that we will be able to open at that point. But unfortunately, I can't answer that.
Yeah, but overall, the volume and the consumption and the reach of all the DLD products has increased probably over COVID, has it? Or, even with the...
I think the e-commerce platform has really enabled us to reach a wider audience in Ireland. Obviously, the distilleries in Dublin, and we had a great name in Dublin, but to reach that wider community in Ireland, the e-commerce has allowed us to grow the brand awareness of all of our portfolio. So we have done quite well. Obviously, we're missing being open and bringing people in and telling everyone our story and growing our brands that way, but we are delighted to still be here and have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. Anything new coming down the pipeline other than those two batch 2 releases? And you mentioned a couple of brewery collaborations there.
Yes, we have 2 batches coming out with Rascals Brewery. We have a old-fashioned cask edition, the beer cask edition, and it's another one is a smoked stout finish as well. So we're looking forward to bringing them out. We should hopefully be launching one of them around April into the Irish market. So, and then we'll stagger out the next one then after that. So yeah, we've a few things coming down the line.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to those. I mean, you've been in the industry a long time, Lisa, and I think how long are you with DLD? 4 years you're with DLD, is it?
I'm with Quintessential Brand now 4 years. Yeah. So actually this month I'm with them 4 years. So I came on board when this distillery was a warehouse when they had just purchased it. So I've been very lucky to see it from start to finish. But I'm in the industry. Well, I mean, I worked for Dalcassian Wines and Spirits as well for 4 years before that, and then I've worked in bars and hospitality all my life. So long time. Yeah,
I'm sure you've never seen anything the likes of what we're going through at the moment, and a lot of your friends I know are in the.
I don't think anyone has seen anything like this, and it's very hard. I think, in particular for hospitality staff. I mean, they're so used to being in an environment with people. And it's very hard to go from that to not being around anyone. So, but I think we're very lucky in Ireland that the hospitality industry is quite small, but we're all really good friends and we all support each other and we keep in touch. And I can call a lot of people that I've met in hospitality very good friends. And so, hopefully we can all get back out together for a pint soon.
Yeah, absolutely. A pint and a dram.
A pint and a dram. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're going to be doing some brewing in there as well of beer. But look, Lisa.
We have got taps, so we'll be able to.
Of course, you've got beer on tap there.
Yeah.
Look, thank you very much for having us as your guest. It's been lovely to walk through.
No, thank you so much for.
I did want to ask you about I forgot to mention your Cask program is still available, is it?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry, yes. We launched the Founders Cask program last year, and it's very much still going. I'm looking after that. So if anyone has any questions on it, our prices, we're doing great pricing on it, and we're doing payment options and everything. So we're trying to make it as accessible for people to be able to invest in a cask of whiskey, which, as you know, is a great investment at the moment with the growth of Irish whiskey globally.
Yeah, very good. Well, look, that information is all on your website, isn't it?
It's on the website, or you can email info@thedld.com. It all comes into myself. Any questions at all, please shout.
Yeah. Quick question there about Paul, from Paul McDermott. Where do the names Keeper Coin, Murder Lane, etc. come from?
Oh, well, all of our Liberties names for the whiskies actually come from historical reasons, kind of within the Liberties. So, for example, Keeper's Coin is it's all about the crypts under Christ Church. Basically, they did a lot of history at the area, and they found that years ago there was like underground kind of debauchery going on under Christ Church, and the men have to have a coin to be able to enter these crypts underneath Christ Church, and they were called a Keeper's Coin. So they found pouches of these coins. Murder Lane is named after the 40 steps. Yeah, so that's I know if anyone knows the history of the 40 steps, and you know a lot of people have died around that area, but they say people fell down the steps drunk, or I don't know. So, but there's a lot of history behind the names. Copper Alley was a name of a street just beside Christ Church. There's actually a bistro still called Copper Alley Bistro there. Just as you're entering Dame Street, I think Fishamble Street it's called now at the back. Yeah. So it's all names of old Dublin areas and Liberties areas, and I think that's the way forward that we're going to look at. Any expressions that we bring out will keep it very Dublin related. Yeah.
Excellent. And then a quick question from Dave Mercer. Is the whiskey available in Canada?
So the Dead Rabbit Irish whiskey is available in Canada. I know that. And the new bottle from Dubliner is not available in Canada as yet, but it will be launching there this year. And same as the Liberties whiskies at the moment are not available in Canada, but it is something that we're working very hard on because we have got a distributor for the Dead Rabbit. So hopefully you'll see them all in Canada in the coming months.
Okay. Excellent. And there's James. He's starting early today. He's having a dram early afternoon.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, Lisa, thank you so much for having us as your guest.
Absolutely, no problem. Thanks so much for taking the time out yourself there afternoon.
Look, it's not as if it's a lovely Saturday afternoon. So we've still got sunlight out there, and it's really unusual for us to be doing the show at this time. So thank you for, as I said, hosting us.
No, thanks for coming in. We're delighted to have you, and hopefully, as I say, in the next coming months, we will be able to do a lot more and bring a lot more to you guys, even virtually, if that has to happen for now. And maybe, hopefully by Christmas, maybe have you in for a dram. I really don't know, but here's hoping.
Yeah. Well, look, stay safe, and
stay safe, everyone. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Lisa.
Thanks
Take care.
So much. See you later.
Bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Something very unusual, something we've never done before, and it went, I think, without too many technical hitches, and it was very interesting from my point of view anyway. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's remember to try and support this distillery, and actually all our distilleries when things do open up again. And again, thank you to the team there, Christopher and Lisa, and the rest of our team, of course. I think there's 14 people working there at the moment. So have a great afternoon. Enjoy your evening. Have a dram or take it easy. And we'll speak to you next Wednesday on Words and Whiskey on a standard show. Well, it won't be standard. It'll be interesting next Wednesday as well. So thank you very much. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.